So today I'm joined by Rusty Perrone and Sons. I think that you're definitely one of like the big guys in New Orleans food. But you're more behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't look at us like that. I look at us
Okay.
like we're
Well, no
just,
one ever looks at themselves like that unless they're a
Yeah.
pompous a-hole.
right. And that's not that obviously that's not what we are. But we try to be in as many restaurants as we can with our quality product.
So so just to give everyone a background. So y'all are an old Italian family from this side of the French Quarter, and y'all had a small grocery store like many immigrants at that time.
Right.
So how many generations back are we?
So I'm fourth generation.
Uh-huh.
My great-grandfather Bartholomew Perrone came from Sicily in about 1901, 1906, somewhere in that time. And they partnered up with the Lupos, which are the original Central Grocery.
Okay.
So they started a grocery together. We believe it's Progress Grocery is really the original grocery store between the two. We're not 100% certain. Neither are the Tusas, who now own Central Grocery. We're very good friends, so we all agree that at some point we started together. We know that's fact. And then at some point we split. And so back then there were, hundreds of Italian deli
small
in the French
Italian groceries were everywhere. Right.
The French Quarter was, at that time, was coined as Little Italy.
Yeah.
Because all the Italian immigrants lived there.
And it was on that side, kind of like closer to the French market.
Right.
Because I
On
do
the
talk
French
about
market side, yeah.
I do talk about public markets a lot, being this place.
Right. Yeah, pretty similar. I mean, every neighborhood had their,
Public
and
market.
at the time, the French market
was
the
French
Quarter's
Quarter's public
same
market.
market.
So
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they were all intertwined with each other. And around 1918 is when the Secretary of State, and I've done some research on it, says that Progress Grocery ceased to exist. Our shirts say 1924. So sometime in 1918 to 1924, we believe Central Grocery, Progress Grocery made their split.
Okay.
And then around 1924 is when we officially opened as Progress Grocery. But we have ledgers in our safe that go back to 1923, So it's really
why do you pick 24 for your shirt there?
I think what wound up happening was my great-grandfather was partners with the Lupos, and then in 1918, if I gather correctly, they split, and my grandfather went into business with another gentleman.
Okay.
That gentleman passed away in 1924.
Oh, okay.
And so in 1924, when it was solely the Perrone families, is when we say we started.
Gotcha. So y'all import, so y'all still import like all the Italian
So we do olive oil, we do
pastas, and all
and
cheeses
then
and stuff. Okay, so help me out here. So I say muffalata. Like I said, I think it's my Sapinot upbringing. Me, I would go to an Arabic food store for a muffalata growing up. That's just what it is. But muffaletta is the way you would pronounce it.
It's the way we pronounce it, yeah. And that's an interesting history of the sandwich itself. It really started out with the Sicilian immigrants out of necessity. Back in, when they were in Sicily, you had 2 hours to eat. Here, you didn't. So it started melting all the different ingredients, your meats, your cheeses, your vegetables, your bread, all on a sandwich.
Okay.
And the gentleman
take
that was
it and
here
go.
before.
Oh yeah, Hayes, yeah.
He was saying, it used to be weighed. You'd take the bread, they would put it on a scale, and they would fill it with whatever the customer wanted. And eventually, Central Grocery, Progress Grocery, whoever, one of the groceries, said, hey, we're going to make it ready to go. So that when the Sicilians come in, they just buy a muffaletta. And so what wound up happening, they would bring the muffaletta. It was wrapped in a
Because this is what I want to know.
paper.
I want to know when I go to a place to get I can't say muffaletta. I'm sorry.
Muffaletta.
Muffaletta. I got that, yap.
Yeah, that's all right.
So when I go to get, what is a traditional? I don't want to get scammed by somebody selling some kind of, offshoot muffaletta.
So
I want to know the real muffaletta. What am I looking for?
Here's
What
the
makes
thing.
it?
Everybody's got their own recipe.
Okay.
I always say
'Cause
no
it's a ham
muffaletta is created
sandwich.
equal.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And it goes to show you that it wasn't one in particular place that started it, because everybody's got a different version. We have probably the oldest olive salad recipe, and Central Grocery does too. So it starts with that. I mean, that's like the main thing. Your bread too. So a muffaletta, if you go to Sicily, is actually a seeded bun. That's all it
It's
is.
the bread,
It's
and
the
I
bread.
actually do know that from my bakery days. The
Yeah.
bread is the muffaletta.
Right.
No, the muffaletta.
So
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get it.
You'll get there.
All right.
So what wound up happening as the people were eating it, they saw that piece of paper that said muffaletta,
And they
and
were
they're
like,
like, "Oh, that's what they're eating. They're eating muffaletta."
Bun.
So a traditional, the way we do it, it's ham, it's cheese, provolone, Swiss. You can either interchange it. Salami, Genoa salami, and then you can end it at that with the olive salad, or you can go. What we used to do, that was like our regular, and then we had a special. And we added mortadella. And mortadella is just a high-end Italian bologna. That's all.
Okay.
Got good fat content in it. It's about about that round. You could do it with pistachio. You could do it without. We do it without for the nut allergy.
Yeah.
But all of ours are actually now made with the mortadella on it because it just adds that much more depth of flavor.
Cool.
And then our olive salad. Our olive salad's pretty simple. It's your cauliflower, celery, carrots.
Don't give away too many.
Yeah. Well, the brining process of that is the secret, and then also your olives are the secret as well. You can't just take a manzanilla olive. It's got to be a particular type of olive.
Okay.
It's a cracked olive, so it's pitted. And then you
Yeah, because you don't want to chip your tooth on that.
exactly, and that does happen.
Yeah.
Even still, being pitted, you're going to get pits in an olive salad. So, and then you just blend it with seasonings and extra virgin olive oil. We don't use soy or canola. So, it's extra virgin olive oil.
Cool.
And
I think one of the, because that's such a, not that we've lost it, we haven't lost it at all. I don't know why I wanted to go that route, but the different immigrant groups that have come to New Orleans have made various things like that are uniquely New Orleans, like a muffaletta, but it's uniquely Italian and it's uniquely New Orleans.
Right.
And so, you talk about the gumbo and all that kind of stuff. I think the muffaletta will be something that I think the city will always hold on to.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is you go out of New Orleans, you go like 200, 300 miles away from New Orleans.
You
don't see it.
You don't see it. It's
see
a
it.
thing. It's not a thing.
My theory is the bread. It's like a New York pizza. You're not going to get a New York pizza crust made the same way down here than you up there. And it has a lot to do with the temperature, the humidity, the climate. These old bakers, like we use Jandusa Bakery. They're just about, I think they're older than our company is. They've been doing it for a long time. And their bakery is the same. I mean, it's the same principle. It's open air. It's humid. It's warm.
You've got to have that to
Yeah.
make
And
it.
then the water does the other thing.
So it has to be it has to be under a boil water advisory
Pretty
in order
much.
to get
Yeah, exactly.
in order to get
Yeah, lately that seems to be
that
the
seems
case.
to be a true
That's the ingredient.
muffaletta.
Right.
So and I start with that because I want to talk about your book. So you wrote a book, and the reason why I want to start with the family business and that because especially with from my experiences with Italian families and businesses, the business is ingrained in the family.
Yeah,
It's like no matter what it is, when you're born, man, you're going to be doing
That's it.
you're going to be doing muffalettas or whatever, and that's going to be your thing. And you don't even have a choice. You think you're gonna have a choice, but you really don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, my dad growing up, he always said, look, two things. Family businesses are difficult, and you got to be groomed to be able to be a family business from a very young age. And we were. Whenever we would be fighting with each other, my dad, the words out of his mouth is always, if y'all think you're gonna fight like that and come into the family business, I'll sell it. and so that was always, it was ingrained from us from kids. You got to get along with each other. It's that core group. You may have disagreements. First thing, don't let other people see that you disagree with each other.
Yeah.
Don't talk about each other or other people
Yeah.
about those disagreements. solve those problems,
And have
act
a
as
unified
unit.
front, and you've got a great business.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was one aspect of growing up in the family business. The other was getting into the business. I mean, as far as I can remember, Saturdays we're going down to the store and we're packing salad, or we're helping fill beans in the bins that we had. And, so it was various things. We literally grew up in this business. People always say, "Well, when did you start?" It's like, well,
Yeah.
technically when I graduated college, I started full time, but I've always been in the business.
Yeah.
So we're a true family business, and everybody that I have four siblings, 5 total, me included. We all did the business at some point. And then as we graduated, only one of us didn't. My older sister, she was smart on both fronts. She didn't get into the family business, and she was smart intellectually, and she's a doctor.
So she's
Great.
doing that.
So
you wrote this book. So Twinless is the name of the book, and it's dedicated to your twin brother who passed away.
Yeah. So about 4 years ago.
The reason I did that because I just want everybody to understand, like, this is devastating. But it's like a whole. There's just so much more to it when you bring like the family legacy into it, the business part into it. Your brother, man, But then, how do you get to the book?
So, this was a culmination of when my brother passed away, it was sudden. January 11th, we found out he had a brain tumor. It was off the pineal glands in the center of the brain. It's one of the hardest spots to get to. And February 25th, he had his surgery. February 27th, he was gone.
Wow.
So it was a very short period of time. We were in a very pivotal moment of our business at that time. So, losing a twin within itself is the hardest thing another twin can experience. Losing a twin, a business partner, at a pivotal moment of the business history was just devastating for all of us. So at the time that happened, my brother was a writer, he was an artist, he did music, and I was more mathematical, pragmatical. And so when a twin passes away, typically you kind of take on some of their traits. Whether you want to or not, it happens.
That's interesting.
And so his writing kind of morphed into me. And so it was just so much to bear. I started writing about his, I wrote about when he told me that he had a brain tumor, and then through his surgery. And then that kind of like relieved some of my pressure, and I let it go.
It's like getting it out, I guess.
That was writing, it was therapy.
Yeah.
And that was like about a month or two after he passed away. Well, 2 years later, we wound up going to a food show. We always did food shows, Randy and I. We went everywhere together. And so when my brother passed away, my dad went to a couple with me, my brother-in-law, my brother, older brother, and it was never really the same. And I said, I realized that they were just doing it for me, and I didn't want to burden them with having to come with me. So I said, this next food show I'm going alone. So I went alone, and
they were there for your support.
They were there for me.
Yeah.
And which
is
got a
what you
great
do.
family. They focused on making sure I was going to be okay and being there for me and trying to help me cope.
But they also lost.
Right.
So they're like, it's a.
Yeah, it was a whirlwind. We wound up. My wife and I moved in with my parents 2 months after he died. We had a 4-month-old, so for them it was keeping their minds focused.
Yeah, and that's a good pause. Yeah.
So on the food show, I'm coming back. I'm on a early morning flight. The plane they announced is full. There's one seat left, and it's right next to me. I'm in the window seat. So my brother and I love to fly, so we're always out of the window. We're looking out the window the whole time. So I get the window seat. Last seat next to me, this gentleman sits down. We don't say a word. I'm doing my thing on my laptop. He's doing his thing with his magazine. And all of a sudden, they'd say, all right, electronics are put away.
Yeah.
So I put it away, and now I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So as every New Orleanian does, we can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
We ask the question, where are you from?
Yeah.
And we're typically not asking that to find out really where they're from.
Right.
It's so that they ask us where we're from.
And then we
talk about New Orleans.
Yeah.
And that's
for
what
sure.
happened. So
California is definitely, man. California people love to talk about New Orleans, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, anybody from here, it's like, yeah, let's talk.
Yeah,
Love
yeah,
this place.
yeah.
So we start talking. We're talking, naturally food comes up because New
Yeah.
Orleans is known for its food.
It's one of the few places in the world that people like come here just to, I'm gonna come here and I want to eat at this place and that place and this place and
Right.
that place, and that's what I'm coming to do.
It's a
you
Disney
know?
World for adults.
It is. It
Yeah.
is for sure.
And so we're talking,
And especially thanks to
naturally-
Mayor Landry. Thank you, Mayor Landry.
Yeah,
But not to get political. But
You're right.
Go ahead.
So we're ingrained in the New Orleans food
Uh,
culture, and so naturally that comes up. We got a family business, and we do a lot.
yeah.
We sell to
yeah.
that restaurant.
And
Oh,
what
you
is that?
went
Wait,
there?
what? Yeah. What? Oh, the motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we start talking about our business, our family business, and I go into the history of what we just went over, and then, naturally, I talk about my brother like he's still here.
Yeah.
I don't shy away from mentioning him. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to bring him up because I don't. It's like, no, I want to keep him alive. I want to keep him in it.
Uh-huh.
So I talk about my brother, and I start explaining the tumor and what happened. And, I learned really quickly about the brain.
Yeah.
And so I'm explaining to this gentleman like he doesn't know, just like I didn't know.
Yeah.
And he reaffirmed some of the things that I'm telling him, and I kind of felt like it was, a little suspicious. And later on in the conversation, he tells me he's a retired pediatrician, knows
okay.
a lot about my brother's tumor. And so the 3-hour flight from Minneapolis to Atlanta, we talked the whole time. And he says, at one point, look, you need to write your story down. It's a fascinating story. There's a lot of lessons of what you had to go through, what you did after. And I told him, I said, well, I did a little writing, but I just never have any time.
Right.
So he
Well, because
starts,
you're running the business, you're doing this. Yeah. You got
kids.
Yeah.
At that time, I think I had two children. I got 4 now, all under 4, or 4 and under. So it keeps me very busy. So he says, well, look, he writes down his email address. He gives it to me. He says, I will help you edit your book.
Uh-huh.
You write 1 hour, 2 hours a week. You send it to me, and then every Monday we'll Skype and we'll go over the writings, and we'll just compile this story.
Uh-huh.
And so for a year.
So it's like, so when I read this, and I do want to read the book for sure, but I have not.
Well, that's yours.
So, well, thank you very much. So the first couple chapters are going over the history of the what we kind of brushed on.
So
You're talking
about
the
our
business,
family
about the
and-
family and stuff. Uh-huh.
And then I go into this is me and my brother's life kind of wrapped up in 324 pages.
Uh-huh.
So we go into everything as far as our troubling times when we were younger and we were mischievous, all the way to when we hit that turning point where we decide we're going to be adults and we're going to get into the family business and be serious about our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of lessons that are had in this book, not only for twins, but for anybody.
Yeah.
So we go through that whole thing. I talk about his death and really what that was like for me, being as powerful of emotions. And so I really, there's 3 chapters in here that are probably the hardest chapters anybody will ever read because I don't hold back. I go through my thoughts from every step of the way and explain what was going on in my head, what was going on with him, and then given a perspective of a twin. Everybody always says, well, you're twins. If I kick him, will you feel it? And I always would tell people, not exactly. It has to be something that's just above and beyond our control of emotions. And so throughout our life, we've had 4 instances where we shared our emotions. Only one of them was a happy one. All the other ones were, oh man, I'm in trouble. This was a big thing. And so, our happy one was when my son was born. And he was feeling my joy, and he started texting me. I was in the hospital, he was at home.
Wow.
And he's crying, and I'm crying, and he's like, I just feel like, so I go through that in here, and I give the reader a glimpse into that. And then the one that every identical twin feels is in that death. And I explain it to the T of what exactly I felt when my brother was going through those moments.
Wow.
And there is no doubt there was that connection. My dad witnessed it. He was there looking at my face and looking at he could tell something just wasn't right.
Well, that's so weird. I guess, and most of us don't have identical twins, and so like, how do you? And we all live within ourselves, you
Right.
know. And so, and I don't know. Maybe you can. It's so, but it's so. I don't even know how to. I don't even know that. I'm trying to think of what that would be like to be able to like experience emotions through a different person. Like we're just stuck inside of our own bodies
Right.
so much. That's so crazy that can happen.
And that's why I think it's fascinating for not only for twins. You know, Twinless comes from an organization, Twinless Twins, and I never knew it existed until I lost my twin brother. But it's all these twins that have lost their twins at some point in their life, and so we all have a common bond, being that we know what it's like to be a twin, and we know what it's like to have lost a twin. So I explain it as best I can, not only to legitimize other twins and say, hey, you know what, we did have that bond, but also to give it a glimpse to singletons, is what twins call non-twins, is singletons, what it was like, what it is like. Because for me, I grew up, it was always we, it was always us. You know, it was never like one of us. It was always, you know, when we got in trouble, it was both of us. When we did something good, it was both of us. So I give that glimpse. And then the hardest part is what happens when you lose yourself, half of yourself. And I go through that, I touch on that in here, is I basically had to relearn how to be me. Because me wasn't just me, it was me and my brother. So I had to learn how to start all over again.
How to be you as you.
Yeah. And
so you as you, and you're coming back into you're doing your business. And so so being that it's a family business, being that this is a family thing, how do you look at the business that way?
Yeah, because we were very integral. I mean, you know, to give you an example, when we were building our warehouse, our new warehouse, we were building shelves. You know, I could go and I could say, hey, Randy, go get that. And he knew
what it was that you were going to
like
get.
There was no question. He knew exactly what it was. And the frustrating part for me when he passed away was, you know, learning to forgive others for not knowing
what it is. Hey, go get me this. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
you know,
we're all, and I'm not in your head.
Right. And so that was in business, that was a hard thing to figure out how to do. And then not only, he was my safety net.
Well, because in business, look, one of the things that I hear, and I deal with a lot of business owners, a lot of people always say in business, man, I wish I could clone myself. You know?
And we did.
And you did.
We had that. Yeah. If a problem, if something went wrong, he was the first one I called. And it was always, he was my safety net. You know, if something goes wrong here, you're on your own.
Right.
It's on you.
It's on me.
If something went wrong in our business, I called him up and it was us. And it's like, okay, here's what we're going to do.
When we first opened here in St. Roch, my brother actually worked behind the counter every weekend morning, and the weekends were the busiest time. And for me, that was a huge deal because, like, the weekends were the busiest time. Harry was coming up, but I knew my brother like had this place.
Yeah, he had your back.
Yeah, my back.
Yeah.
Like I knew he had it on the weekends.
Right.
So I mean, like I don't understand.
No, but
I can scratch at it. I can scratch at it.
And my thing is the point of this is not to make people feel like they don't have a strong enough relationship like a twin does.
Yeah.
It's to legitimize your relationship with your brother.
Yeah.
You can say, hey man, you know, me and my brother do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So yeah, we do have that bond. No, we're not twins. But we still got that same bond. You know, it's that same bond. And so I don't want anybody to feel like their grief or their bonds are any less important than my bond with my twin or a twin's bond.
Man, listen, this is super cool, man. Thank you so much for coming.
Sure.
The book is Twinless. The company is Perrone and Sons, and the sandwich is the Muffaletta, now that I know. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's such a cool thing, and I'm going to dive into this book. Man.
Awesome.
It's awesome. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Yeah.